The auction hall glittered like a jewel carved from darkness, a cathedral to greed and spectacle. Velvet shadows clung to its obsidian walls, and above, chandeliers of suspended crystal swayed in slow, graceful arcs. Every alien in the gallery, arms dealers, syndicate lords, and corporate predators, had come to see the prize thrashing inside the hard-light cage at the center dais. She was unlike anything else in the room. Lyra. Her skin was the deep, burnished red of iron under sunset, stretched over a frame made of lean muscle and surgical precision. Her long crimson hair whipped like living flame with each sharp movement. Golden eyes blazed under a heavy brow, their fire undimmed by the jagged pale scars crossing her body. Her ears, long and pointed like blades, were pinned back in open defiance. The snarl curling her lips revealed teeth made for tearing, not for show. The auctioneer, a seppos in blood-colored robes, let the silence grow until it was unbearable. "Lot 734, he murmured, his voice a silken thread sliding through hidden speakers. Designation, Chimera. Bioengineered soldier. Class 4 regeneration. Enhanced reflexes. Behavioral complications." Lyra's growl was low and feral. She slammed her shoulder into the energy barrier, sending sparks skittering across its shimmering surface. A ripple of unease passed through the audience. "She has terminated 17 handlers," the auctioneer went on, eyes glittering, "and 2 previous owners. Omnicore deems her a failed prototype." At the back of the room, a man stood half hidden in shadow. Rian. Human. His dark jacket was playing beside the gaudy parade of silks, scales, and ceremonial armor surrounding him. He wasn't looking at Lyra. His gaze was locked to the datapad in his hands, where a river of corrupted code streamed across the screen, his code, though twisted into something cruel. The synaptic weave had been his creation once, a bridge to heal damaged nerves and restore control to shattered limbs. Now it had been weaponized, turned inward to burn her alive from the inside, forcing her body to obey like a puppet. She wasn't just some dangerous beast for sale. She was a prisoner in a cage made from his own genius. 200,000 credits, the auctioneer purred. Silence. Even the wealthiest here valued their lives more than their ambition. 150. A bargain. Rian's jaw flexed. He had chased this trail of stolen work across 5 systems, expecting a stolen battlesuit or rogue drone, not a living being shackled to his stolen design. He had expected to destroy a weapon, not meet its victim. 100,000, the auctioneer tried again, voice now tinged with strain. Rian raised his hand. 500,000, he said, his tone cutting through the chamber like a scalpel. Every head turned. A human outbidding warlords and cartel heads was not just reckless, it was suicidal. Lyra's eyes locked on his. For a heartbeat, the hatred in them flickered into something else, confusion. "Sold to the human," the auctioneer declared. The hard light cage dissolved. A lifetime of credits vanished from Rian's account. He didn't care. He had her now, and whatever came next would come. The walk to the docking bay was a silent procession. 2 mercenaries flanked Lyra, one, a hulking reptilian, the other a wiry insectoid. A crude neural inhibitor collar ringed her throat, each step stiff with controlled fury. Rian followed close, hands steady though his pulse thundered. "You sure about this, human?" the reptilian asked, voice grinding like stone. "Just get her aboard," Rian said flatly. They reached his ship, the Esterian, a small, unassuming workshop disguised as a transport. The interior lights spilled onto the grimy steel ramp, a sterile glow against the gloom. Lyra hesitated at its threshold. The insectoid prodded her with an electric baton. The jolt combined with the collar's oppressive signal, and something inside her snapped. Her scream was raw, primal. half predator's roar, half machine shriek. Sparks burst from the collar as she convulsed. In a blur, her wrists tore free from their restraints. One arm shattered the insectoid's thorax, the other crushed the reptilian's windpipe. 2 seconds. Then stillness. She swayed, her breath ragged, before collapsing. Rian moved quickly. Kneeling beside her, he withdrew a small cylindrical device from his belt. It hummed at a frequency only the weave would respond to, a failsafe meant to soothe chaos, never meant to be used like this. Slowly, her convulsions eased. The jagged red spikes of pain in his datapad readings softened into rolling waves. When she lay still, he dragged the dead mercenaries off the ramp, sealed the hatch, and turned toward the medical bay. For now, they were alone. The medical bay aboard the Asterion was small, white-lit, and lined with diagnostic equipment that looked out of place in such a modest ship. It was the only compartment with a reinforced hatch and independent atmosphere, meant for delicate work, not prisoners. Yet that was where Lyra lay, motionless, on the padded biobed. Rian stood in the adjacent control room, separated by a wall of transparent alloy. He told himself this wasn't a cell. It was containment. Quarantine. For her safety as much as his. Her awakening was abrupt. One heartbeat she was still, the next, she was on her feet in a crouch, golden eyes scanning the corners of the bay. She hammered her fists into the door, leaving shallow dents in its reinforced surface. Then her gaze snapped to him through the window. "I'm not going to hurt you," Rian said, speaking evenly into the intercom. "My name is Rian. I built the technology in your head. I can take it out." The low growl that answered him was pure threat, vibrating through the glass. Her ears pressed flat against her skull, lips curling to reveal teeth like ivory knives. She didn't believe him, why would she? Words weren't going to work.
He sat at the console, fingers flying over the interface, initiating a handshake with the weave. Pain exploded through his mind as the connection opened. A torrent of data flooded in, rage, fear, confusion, each warped by Omnicore's military overrides. He didn't try to force control. Instead, he sent a simple, clean signal, a pure diagnostic pulse. In the med bay, Lyra flinched, clutching her head. This touch was different from the blunt agony of the inhibitor, it was surgical, precise. Her pain reading spiked red on his monitor. He adjusted the frequency, layering a counterwave to calm the feedback loops. Slowly, the red bled to orange. Her snarl broke into ragged breaths. They were talking, in a language made of signals and silence. Hours passed. He learned the rhythms of her agony, the pulse of her fury. She learned that his presence in her mind was not another form of violation, but a bomb. Finally, he took a risk. From his own neural link, he projected a memory. His younger self hunched over a holographic tablet, sketching the first designs of the weave. It was filled with hope, with the dream of healing soldiers and restoring lives. No malice. No chains. Lyra stumbled back, eyes wide. For the first time, her fists lowered. He pressed deeper into the weave's architecture, horrified by what Omnicore had done. They had butchered his elegant system, walling off her higher reasoning, shackling her to instinct and constant pain. But they hadn't erased everything. In a hidden sector of the weave, behind his own forgotten encryption, he found her, an untouched backup of Lyra's consciousness, preserved at the instant of activation. She was whole there. Unbroken. A line of text appeared on his console, "Where am I?" "You're inside the weave," he typed back. "I'm Rian. I built it." She, this ghost Lyra, understood. She told him how she had watched her own body commit violence, unable to stop it, feeling every echo of the pain. "They made her a monster," she wrote. "That's not who we are." He realized his mission had changed. It wasn't about removing hardware anymore. It was a rescue. She offered to guide him through the corrupted maze. She knew where the red zones lived, the regions of pain that kept her from being whole. Together, they mapped the weave's pathways, finding a back door to its central governor. Rian compiled a bypass, a fragile bridge that could give her seconds of clarity before the system reasserted control. When he activated it, the change was immediate. In the med bay, Lyra straightened, her movements suddenly smooth and deliberate. Her eyes met his through the glass, clear, intelligent, aware. "Why?" she asked, voice rough from disuse. The moment broke as the bypass failed, pain flooding her again. But it was enough. Enough to spark trust. From then on, those brief lucid windows became their lifeline. He used them not just for repairs, but for connection. He shared sensations, coffee's bitterness, the cool kiss of rain, the swell of a symphony, gifts from his life before this. She absorbed them, savoring each as though it were treasure. It was in those stolen moments that Rian realized he wasn't just saving her. He was falling in love with her. The alert shattered the quiet of the Asterian. Red lights bled across the cockpit panels, sirens cutting through the hum of the engines. Rian severed his link to the weave, his stomach tight. "What is it?" The ship's computer answered in its flat monotone. "Incoming priority transmission. Origin, Omnicore Private Network." A symbol bloomed across the central display, the planet and gear insignia of Omnicore, followed by a chilling directive: reclaim initiated. Asset 734 is property of Omnicore. Surrender the asset or be neutralized. Rian's pulse quickened. "They've found us." On the long-range sensors, a sleek gunship closed the distance at impossible speed. He didn't need the registry ID to know who was aboard. Cade, the best recovery agent Omnicore had. A predator in a tailored black exosuit, famous for never returning empty-handed. "It's him," Ghost Lyra's voice appeared in his mind. In the med bay, the physical Lyra felt the shift in the ship's vibrations, the thrum of engines pushed to their limit. Fear and adrenaline from Rian bled through their link. She began pacing, her movements taut with controlled agitation. "I can't fight that ship," Rian muttered, plotting a course for the Veil, a dense asteroid field known for swallowing ships whole. "No," Ghost Lyra insisted. "She doesn't want to run. The pain is turning into anger. She wants to fight." Rian glanced at the medbay monitor. Lyra had stopped pacing. Her golden eyes burned, not with blind rage, but with focused intent. For the first time, her fury had a target. The Asterian plunged into the chaos of the Veil. Colossal rocks tumbled through space, lit in flashes by distant nebulae. Rian's knuckles whitened on the controls as proximity alarms screamed. Behind them, Cade's gunship, the Scythe, slid through the debris with predatory grace, its weapon ports glowing. Plasma bolts stitched across the Asterian's shields. 60%, the computer warned. "I can't fly this ship and prep the defense systems," Rian growled. "There's no time." "Then let her help," Ghost Lyra's thought cut sharp and certain. "Give her claws." The risk was staggering, full integration could fry her mind. But the alternative was certain death. "Lyra," Rian projected, sending the idea into both herselves, "I'm patching you into the ship's tactical grid. Can you control the point defense cannons?" What came back was not a word, but a surge of certainty, pure warrior's instinct. Trusting her, Rian rerouted control. The effect was instantaneous. The Asterian's guns, normally sluggish and reactive, came alive. In the med bay, Lyra stood motionless, eyes closed, mind fused with the ship's targeting systems. A swarm of Omnicore microdrones shot from the Scythe. The dorsal and ventral cannons swiveled in perfect synchrony, vaporizing each target before the targeting AI even finished its predictions. Rian flew by instinct, calling out maneuvers. Missile, port side, brake high. The Asterion rolled into a climb, and the port cannon vaporized the incoming missile mid-arc. She wasn't just shooting. She was anticipating. Feeling the battle through the sensors as though the ship itself were her body. Cade wasn't prepared for this. His quarry had turned from prey into predator. Under Lyra's control, the Asterion's shields regenerated. Rian laughed, a brief, incredulous sound. "We're surviving. We're actually winning," Ghost Lyra finished. The fight turned into a deadly dance through tumbling rock and shadow until Rian spotted Salvation, a hollowed-out asteroid, its mined-out caverns yawning like a mouth. He threaded the Asterion through the opening, skimming the walls until they set down on the rough stone floor. The scythe prowled outside, methodically sweeping the field. They'd bought moments, nothing more. Rian turned to the medbay feed. Lyra was still at the tactical console, breath steady, clarity burning in her gaze. "This is it," he said into the link. "If I'm going to get that hardware out of your head, it has to be now." And for the first time since the auction, she nodded, not in defiance, but in trust. Rian moved fast, every step echoing off the metal decking as he entered the medbay. Lyra stood against the far wall, her body still coiled from the fight but her eyes bright with lucidity. She'd held on to the clarity the bypass gave her, sustained by adrenaline and the thrill of battle. He didn't waste time. "Here's what's going to happen," he projected through their link, overlaying it with schematics of the weave, the risks, the sequence of the procedure. "I have to cut Omnicore's hardware out completely," he said aloud. "Then I have to merge you with her." He glanced at the empty space where Ghost Lyra's presence hovered, "so you're whole again." Ghost Lyra's voice whispered across the link, a thread of apprehension. "A full merge could kill us." "I know," Rian replied, locking eyes with the living Lyra. "But it's the only way you'll be free." She studied his face, searching for deception. She found none. Slowly, she gave a single, deliberate nod. He set to work. Instruments unfolded from ceiling racks. The sterile field hissed to life, isolating the surgical area. Lyra lay back on the bio bed, her chest rising and falling with measured breaths. Her stillness wasn't submission, it was trust. "I need to expose the primary interface at the base of your skull," he said. She turned her head without hesitation. His fingers brushed aside the thick fall of crimson hair, grazing the warm red skin of her neck. A shiver ran through her, he felt it echo back through their link. His own pulse faltered for a fraction of a second before training reasserted itself. The small seamless panel slid open under his touch, revealing a lattice of fiber optics pulsing faintly with stolen life. "I'm going in," he murmured. The weave's interior unfolded before him as a storm of light and sound. His mind moved through its twisted corridors while his hands guided microcalipers and neural dampeners. Ghost Lyra's presence was his beacon, a point of calm in the chaos, leading him around firewalls and weaponized subroutines Omnicore had welded onto his design. Every barrier dismantled was a live explosive diffused. Sweat rolled down his temple. A tremor shuddered through the ship. The medbay's lighting flickered. "Hull breach imminent in Sector Gamma," the ship's voice intoned. "Cade's cutting through the rock," Ghost Lyra warned. "He can't have us," Rian growled, diving deeper. The heart of the parasite loomed ahead, a crystalline black growth fused into the core of the weave. The ship rocked violently again, dust raining from the ceiling. "Lyra, I have to start the merge," Rian said, his voice tight. "You'll be incapacitated for a moment. Hold on." He sent the command. Ghost Lyra's data form dissolved, flooding into the main system. For a heartbeat, the weave became a battlefield, two sets of memories, two wills, colliding and twisting. Lyra's body arched on the bed, a silent scream etched into her face. Her vitals spiked, then flatlined. "Rian." The ghost's final cry echoed in his mind before the signal shattered. "No." He poured his will into the weave, focusing every ounce of intimate knowledge of its architecture into a single command: integrate. Heal. Be whole. His hands made the final cut in the physical interface, prying the crystalline parasite free. The moment it left her system, the chaos vanished. On his console, the violent red spikes of neural distress flattened into steady green. On the bed, Lyra's chest rose again in a deep, shuddering breath. Her golden eyes opened, clear, intelligent, and utterly free. The ghost was gone. She was here. All of her. A deep impact hurled Rian sideways. The wall split open with a shriek of tearing metal as Cade's cutting beam breached the cavern. Lyra swung her legs over the side of the bed in one fluid motion. "My turn," she said, her voice calm but edged with lethal intent. She crossed to the tactical console, fingers dancing across its controls. This time there was no fugue, no primal snarl, only the full precision of a warrior's mind moving at the speed of the weave. "Cade's overpowering the shields," Rian warned, strapping into the pilot's chair. "He thinks we're trapped," she said evenly. "He's wrong." She called for structural stress point data on the cavern walls. Rian's eyes widened. He hadn't told her he'd calculated them on the way in, but she'd felt them through their connection. He sent the coordinates. 3 weak points deep in the asteroid's tunnels lit up on her display. "Firing on my mark," she ordered. Rian took them into a gut-wrenching dive through the fissures. For a heartbeat, the scythe was perfectly framed by the 3 glowing targets. "Mark." The Asterian's mining lasers lanced out, striking all 3. For a second, nothing happened, then the cavern groaned, splintered, and collapsed inward. The scythe vanished in a silent avalanche of rock and ice. Silence returned. The danger was gone. Lyra appeared in the cockpit doorway, the glow from the console tracing her powerful frame. She reached out, her hand cool against his cheek. This time, it wasn't the touch of a prisoner. It was the touch of a partner. They fled the veil in a burst of FTL light, the asteroid field shrinking into the distance like a dying ember. 3 standard years passed without another hunter. Kairos was their sanctuary, a world absent from star charts, wrapped in quiet beauty. Twin suns, one gold and one crimson, painted the skies in shifting hues. Their home was built into the roots of an ancient petrified tree, its fossilized tendrils forming the foundation. Bioluminescent vines, coaxed into growth by Lyra's hand, wound up its flanks, glowing in rhythm with the planet's magnetic tides. Inside, Rian's workshop was all clean lines and precise order, a place for code and machines. The living quarters were Lyra's domain, warm, organic, filled with the scent of alien blossoms and the soft pulse of life. The synaptic weave was gone, but the connection between them remained like an echo, a subtle hum in the background of their days. They spoke little. They didn't need to. Rian would feel the quiet satisfaction of her tending her garden, Lyra would sense the sharp pleasure of his code compiling perfectly. Her scars remained, silver threads against red skin, but the feral edge of the auction block was gone. She moved with the unhurried grace of someone who no longer lived in anticipation of a strike. One evening, they sat on the veranda as the crimson sun dipped toward the horizon. Rian sketched designs for a new water collector, Lyra polished a chunk of obsidian into a sculpture. Without looking up, she sent him a flicker of amusement. "What is it?" he asked. She held up the finished piece, an eerily accurate likeness of the rodent-faced broker who'd sold him the auction key years ago. He laughed, deep and genuine. Her hands, once designed for killing, now made things that could only bring joy. But peace had its shadows. The Asterian lay half buried in a canyon a few kilometers from their home, a silent memorial they hadn't dismantled. It was there, salvaging the reactor core for backup power, that Rian found it, a scorched, armor-plated data chip, wedged deep in the hull. Back in the workshop, the chip's black metal seemed to swallow the light. Lyra appeared in the doorway, her presence tinged with unease. "It's from Cade's ship," Rian said quietly. A flight recorder, maybe. Most of it's probably dead. We are safe here, she murmured, more warning than reassurance. I just want to be sure, he answered. His tone left no room for argument. The chip fought him for days, omni-core encryption layers crumbling only under relentless pressure. Lyra kept her distance, watching with a kind of quiet wariness. She brought him food, stood behind his chair without speaking, an anchor against his obsessive focus. At last, he found a way through. Not by brute force, but by remembering his own original code, buried deep beneath Omnicore's additions. With Lyra's insight, he found a forgotten diagnostic port only he could have built. The lock fell open like an old friend's door. The chip wasn't just a flight log, it was an asset roster. Lot 734, Lyra, Lorian specimen, weave interface unstable, sold. Lot 735, Kalen, Thraxian specimen, decommissioned. Lot 736, Zara, Sinian specimen, decommissioned. The list went on, each line another life twisted by his creation. Until the final entry. Lot 737, subject unknown. Kayan specimen. Weave interface pending. In cryostasis at Omnicore Black Site Omega. Stored. Not destroyed. Waiting. Jax's, no, Cade's, final orders were there too, not only to recover Lyra, but to bring Rian in alive. Omnicore couldn't replicate the stability he'd achieved with her. They didn't understand that the weave required balance, not just hardware. To them, Rian wasn't an enemy. He was the missing piece of their next generation of killers. The log ended with a chilling note, Black Site Omega scheduled for sanitization. Lot 737 to be incinerated. Rian stared at the screen, the sanctuary around him suddenly feeling fragile. Lyra's hand came to rest on his shoulder. She didn't speak, but he felt the surge of memory through their bond, the lightless cage, the agony, the helplessness. And under it all, the fierce, burning certainty, they couldn't leave someone else to that fate. Our quiet life's over, Rian said softly. Lyra's lips curved into a smile, dangerous and beautiful. Then let's give it a better ending. If you've stayed with me through this story, you've seen how far Rian and Lyra came, from the cold light of an auction hall to the warm glow of a home they built together. You've watched them fight side by side, not just against enemies, but against the scars left behind by a lifetime of control, pain, and loss. But that's the truth of journeys like theirs, they don't end when the guns fall silent. The galaxy's full of shadows, and sometimes peace is just the space between battles. Somewhere out there, Lot 737 is still sleeping, still unaware of the fate waiting on the other side of that cryo chamber. And our two unlikely partners? They've decided that if the universe wants to keep building cages, then it's their job to break every single one. So the question now isn't whether they'll make it, it's what they'll have to become to do it. And knowing Lyra's fire and Rian's stubborn heart, I think Omnicore's about to learn the hard way that some creations can't be controlled. If you want to see where they go next, whether they can pull off an impossible rescue, or whether they'll end up running from an even bigger storm, then you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter. Tap like if you enjoyed riding along through asteroid fields and hacking corporate nightmares. And share this story with anyone who loves tales of rebellion, redemption, and the kind of partnership that can topple empires. Because trust me, this is only the beginning.